So by now, you may have been confronted by a lot of investment options that you may or may not understand and are very confused of where to put your money. In today's video, we're gonna talk about where did I personally invest in my 20s and what are the lessons that I learned from it. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm PPE and this is the Peso Pro episodes where we talk about money management tips and peso tricks. If you're looking for content on personal finance, you've come to the right place. I often get asked the question of where do you invest your money and what is your strategy? To be honest, some of the investment vehicles I chose sort of presented themselves to me because of opportunities through my network or by learning different things in the internet or also asking different institutions of what investments are there. In today's video, I cannot go and talk into each of them, but what I'm gonna share is how my investments, the ones that I did in my 20s, are being scattered across my total portfolio, and I'll share with you a couple of lessons on why did I select and what was the thought process in selecting these investment choices. The majority of my portfolio today is in real property. And when I say real property, I'm really talking about two big things. One is rental property, which is property that will earn lease payments or rental payments from my tenants month on month. The other ones are actually vacant lots, which I bought either as pre-selling, so these are all in their very, very early stages where prices tend to be cheaper, or these can be in areas where I'm thinking in the future that lot values will appreciate because there's gonna be a big community that's gonna go there in that area in the near future. A lot of these real estate assets, while they're good prospects for the long term, can be very hard to liquidate. So that's one thing I'm actually working on. While I had seen very good appreciation and good value growth over the past couple of years, what I learned is that I should now somehow start to shift some of the money that I'm investing into more liquid assets, like maybe high interest earning deposits and maybe even stocks, because those are easier to sell off if I need them. The second biggest chunk of my portfolio would be in businesses, and these can be businesses with friends or even colleagues, and I act in one of two ways. One case would be where I'm an active partner and I actually help in the business affairs on a day-to-day basis and try to manage the business along with my co-investors. The other case would be me funding a portion of the business through an equity infusion where I'm more of a silent investor. I don't technically join the day-to-day affairs, but I put money in so that I can earn some return when the business grows. This is a good diversification strategy that you can look into if you have similar opportunities, because when you go into businesses, you actually have better control of the destiny of that business, so you can actually make certain decisions that will directly affect the result of the business operations. Now also, this does not come as free of risk. As businesses that you've seen have undergone before, some of them can either go into very, very high growth, or some of them can actually die and wilt down in the process because they were mismanaged, or there were just other factors like competition affecting the results of that business. So just take note that when you put money as investments into businesses, while they're generally good, also just understand the core foundation of that business, and I think you should be primed for at least being able to make good decisions to make the most out of the money that you put in there. The next part of my portfolio would be investments in funds. And these funds help me diversify the underlying assets that I'm investing in. So I'm talking about mutual funds, UITFs, or even the VUL products that come with insurance. These three funds I place together in one category because they're essentially investing in the same portfolio mix. What I have in my mix would be typically funds that invest in the PSE, or the Philippine Stock Exchange Index, which is a representative of the top 30 stocks for the PSE. And I'm also choosing some funds that invest in the broader global markets, which include Apple and even some of the other big US companies as part of their portfolio. The next part of my investment portfolio would be individual stocks. I am not personally a fan of individual stocks as long-term investment vehicles because I am not a technical trader and I don't also have the luxury of time and experience to actually be able to do very good technical analysis on each individual stock. However, I joined the stock market because there are some companies that I actually believed in, and I'm trying to also learn my way to understand how the market reacts to certain decisions that are happening in the country or even the world. I actually made a video on some of my experiences in dealing with individual stocks and how I'm managing through a loss of almost half of a stock's value. Check the description box and look at that video right after this one for you to be able to learn what I learned while managing individual stocks. In managing individual stocks, I utilize BPI Trade for my local securities, and I also use eToro for trading US securities. If you're interested in starting an eToro account, they have an ongoing promotion where you will get $50 in credits after you paid the minimum deposit. So if you want to take advantage of that promotional offer, I am linking my referral code in the description box below so that you can take advantage of that promo and have at least $50 more that you can trade with. The last portion of my portfolio would be investments in some government or alternative kinds of investments. I also have holdings in the Pag-ibig MP2 program that I'm constantly putting money in. There is a good voluntary savings program by the government, which is government secured, has been earning decent dividends in the past years. So I'm putting money into that. The other one is I'm also putting money into our company's cooperative or savings and loan association, which gives a decent return. It's also offering loans to people in the company, so we actually get dividends from the income that is generated from those loans and also from the investments that the fund is making. These are a few things that I'm doing for diversification and also trying to figure out what to do for specific investments for specific time horizons. For example, if I have something planned for in the next 5 years, I would likely put that in the Pag-ibig MP2, especially if I'm not so much of a risk taker, because at least from that vehicle, I'm more or less getting a very good rate of return, but I'm also hedging because the government is actually securing the principal on that investment. Whereas if I put money in a mutual fund or in stocks, no one's gonna guarantee the investment that I put in, and 5 years for me may be a bit too risky for that. So just take that into account. How I divide my investments across these different kinds of investment assets is largely a personal preference, but also thinking about risk, rewards, and time horizon. These three things are the things that I consider so that I can find a way to balance the risk reward, which means that when I put it into a more risky investment, I'm also opening myself up both for the upside, which is high growth, and the downside, which is high loss. If I put it into more reasonably risked investments, then I also am willingly taking the chance that I will also get more modest returns but more modest losses. And for things that are happening maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, I would most likely put those into very safe deposit accounts so that they're safe there for the time being, but they earn decent interest. But I wouldn't count on that so much because I wouldn't be able to keep them there for a long period of time anyway. If you're not sure if you're ready to invest yet, we actually made a video on the 8 pro steps that will tell you what to do first and what to do next. Some of the preparatory steps have to be true for you to be able to confidently and soundly get into the investing mode. If you haven't watched that video, we'll link to that in the description below, and you will be able to see and identify what steps are needed, and at least that should also help you assess for yourself if you're ready to take the investing next step. If you've decided and you've assessed that you're ready to invest, I suggest 3 practical things for you to cover before you actually jump into the wonderful world of investments. Step number 1 would be for you to understand your risk assessment profile. You can do this by answering a few questionnaires online. I'll link to one in the description box below. And you can also feel free to comment what that test gave you as a risk profile. What that test will tell you is what kind of loss and gain are you able and willing to actually expose your assets into. This can change over time, so don't worry if you have a different answer 2 years from now because the realities of your life may have changed by then. Step number 2 would be for you to learn from what the risk profile is and understand what are the different investment types that are possible for that risk profile. In the future, we'll upload more videos on risk tolerance, risk profile, and what investment reaches or is in line to that risk profile. So if you are interested in that, feel free to comment that in the comment section below and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're notified when the next videos are up. And the last one would be for you to actually understand how much money are you willing to periodically set aside in terms of investment. In the 8 Pro steps, we talk about investing for retirement and investing or saving for significant milestones in step 5 and 6. Investments are a great vehicle to deliver the value that you can get for these long-term goals. And in those steps, investing knowledge will be very important. But what I would tell you is that you don't need to be a researcher or a very technical person or a math geek to actually understand investments. All you have to have is an open mind and a willing set of hands and heart for you to be able to open the learning process for you to be able to take advantage of the returns that you can gain from investments. If this video was of value to you, I hope you hit the like button and I'll see you in the next one.